How difficult is it to actually sell a jet from point A to point B? You got to have some type of command presence, right?
There's no question. That's the drug. That's my adrenaline that keeps me interested in doing this business. Listen, I've sold every airplane on plenty of them. And the real addiction I have to this business is meeting the people and doing business and negotiating with the heads of every industry of every country in the world. And they keep you on your toes. Everyone is a challenge. I mean, you go in with battle gear, you got to figure out how to navigate through that space with these people. And I'm very direct, I'm very honest, and I'm very sincere. And if it's going to mean I'm going to lose the deal, I'm going to lose the deal.
Steve Varsano, welcome to the Man of War podcast, man. It is an honor to have you on, and I love it. Look at your background there, dude. I like envy that so much. I'm like, shit. La
Every
vida
day I
loca.
feel like I'm flying someplace, you know?
Awesome, man. Love it. Love it. You did that. Is that part of your office there?
Yeah. It's not a
Incredible.
picture. It's actually, you can see the cars moving in the background. Well, you will see them. But
Wow.
this is a full-size Airbus, a replication of a corporate jet. This is not absolutely what the normal corporate jet looks like. There's only like 100, well, 200 of these in the world.
hmm
Most of them are heads of state. But it's a good space to sort of set the client in, in the right environment.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, for those who don't know you, I'm going to give you a little bit, a few minutes here to introduce yourself. Okay. I
Okay.
got to believe that a lot of people know you, but let's just say for those who don't know you, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. I mean, my current self is I'm Steve Varsano. This is the jet business. We have a street front retail showroom or store that sells jets. And we represent buyers and sellers all around the world. I'm based here in London, but our business is really 60% in the United States. And sometimes we buy an airplane ourselves and redo it and sell it. But a lot of times, most of the time, we're representing buyers or sellers. And really, through every single country in the world, dealing with the who's who in every sector, every industry. It's a incredibly challenging environment with these people, but it's in a space that I know better than most other people in our industry. So the corporate jet world, just to give you an idea, there's about 24,000 corporate jets in the whole world. And we're talking about the smallest jet to the biggest jet, but only in the corporate configuration, not in the commercial airlines and not in the military.
Hmm. That's very interesting. All right. So let's rewind this a little bit. You say you're in England. So where were you born?
In New York.
Okay. And give us a little bit of a glimpse. You were born in New
Sure.
York. How did you wind up in England?
So I was born in New York. I started sweeping floors in a beauty salon when I was 7 years old, and I started learning how to fly when I was 14. I definitely was not a privileged kid. I was working, in restaurants and dishwasher busboy most of my teenage days. And a friend of mine, his older brother, went up for a flying lesson one day and said, "You want to come up for a ride?" I never imagined I'd ever get into an airplane at those days. And I just fell in love with aviation. So I was really fortunate to find something that I really got passionate about immediately at a young age. So I got my licenses when I was 16, 17, and I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University down in Daytona Beach, and I got my degree in aeronautical studies. I went from there. I became a lobbyist on Capitol Hill, representing the aircraft manufacturers around the world. And from there, I ended up going meeting a guy who sold airplanes, and I convinced them to hire me for free
Hmm.
to sell jets. And I got a job as a waiter at night to pay my rent and things like that. That was when I was like 20, 23 years old. And so I started selling jets at that time. I've been doing it most of my life, except for about a 20-year stint in the middle. I worked in the private equity world in what they used to call merchant banking. I was actually down in your backyard in Palm Beach for quite
Hmm.
a while, uh,
Interesting.
and uh, and I probably had a lot of guys from your police department coming to raid our house when we were doing work when we weren't supposed to, and. That was a great time because I sort of learned on the other side how to actually, be the principal, working with the private equity guys. And then I went back on the other side and started to sell airplanes. And at that time, I left the industry, and 20 years later, all of the parameters, the demographics of where corporate jets were owned changed. And where 80% used to be in America, it went down to 50% because all of these emerging sort of frontier markets like China, Nigeria, India, Russia, they came out of nowhere in the 1990s, and they started developing their industries, buying airplanes, and I wanted to really get to that market. And
Yeah.
I couldn't really see face to face these people. And as you know, you can't do your job unless you're with somebody face to face and somebody digs in and gets your hands dirty. So in order to go and see these people, which was impossible, I created a showroom to get them to come and see me. And most people thought I should check into a psychiatric hospital when I told them the idea, but I did it and it worked. So
Why
here I
why England though?
Great question. Great 21st century man question.
Yeah.
I met a woman, and
There you go.
that's most of us guys won't admit
Yeah.
why most of our major decisions in life are because of a woman. But I met a woman here in London. I just got divorced in the U.S. and I met her here, and I reverse engineered that it was probably more of an advantage to open up the showroom in London rather than New York. Thank God that was 16 years ago. It worked out amazing. She's an amazing woman and been a great platform for me to walk with. So she's helped stand by me and supported me a lot in my whole drive to build this whole idea.
That's amazing. I love that. So the shift from you went from equity and then all of a sudden you went back into the industry and you said that you saw like it used to be 80% in the United States and then it shifted down to 50%. What do you attribute that to specifically, you think?
Yeah, it was no question. That was in the 1990s when the Cold War ended and the wall
Uh,
came down in Germany and everything was starting to change around the world. This is back in the Reagan days, and when really there were more man of wars and there wasn't a woke culture and there was a really um, the face of the world changed. And so when a lot of capitalism started eking into these countries that were really communist or socialist, it started raising a lot of opportunities for people that got into the agriculture and technology and oil and
yeah.
gas. And those places developed a lot of people who needed to do globalization of their industries. And they needed airplanes, and that's where the opportunities grew.
So one of the things that I heard you say a while back, it's not necessarily always the luxury in these jets. People don't understand that these individuals that fly, their time is so precious. And it's the most important part is being in a vehicle that can get you from point A to point Z. And sometimes you talk about the mileage, how far this plane could take you. And I find that so fascinating. Uh, I imagine that you have met so many incredible people throughout your time there. So many game changers, people maybe that the norm don't even know who the hell they are, but they are the underground, these billionaires and people that are just, they're working at a different level. How has that experience been for you?
There's no question. That's the drug. That's my adrenaline that keeps me interested in doing this business. Listen, I've sold every airplane, plenty of them. And the real addiction I have to this business is meeting the people and doing business and negotiating with the heads of every industry of every country in the world. And they keep you on your toes. Everyone is a challenge. I mean, you go in with battle gear. You got to figure out how to navigate through that space with these people. And listen, I'm an old guy, and so as experienced as I think I am in negotiation, every single one of these guys teaches me another lesson, and that's I think it's in your book, and I'm a sponge to learn information and constantly learn. So these guys are all asking me about, about the aviation and airplanes, and I'm trying to figure out, asking them questions about their industry, what they think about the geopolitical situation, and what
Yeah.
they think about the financial world. And so it's a give and take, and that's my reason for being in it is to learn and keep absorbing knowledge.
Yeah. So when you started, and when you went back into the industry, I mean, what was your vision? I mean, did you have it laid out where, hey, I'm going to actually build, huge office where people are going to come from all over to meet me here, and this is where I'm going to sell jets rather than you traveling all over the place? Or was it just, step by step, you started to create that momentum?
Yeah, no, the idea, because when I started selling airplanes, like I said, 80% were in America. So if I ever really had a really strong client, I just hop on an airplane and fly to go meet them. So, and I always believe in face to face. Even this Zoom, as good as this is over a telephone call, if I was actually to have a coffee or a drink with you for an hour, our
Sure.
relationship would be so geometrically better than
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of a connection.
Agreed. Agreed.
So I always believe in that face to face. And when I first started selling planes, actually, I walked into the door of the show the brokerage firm I got a job at, and everybody was in t-shirts and shorts and flip flops and beards. And I was like, "Excuse me, guys. I mean, what's happening here?" They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I thought you sold jets." "We do." I said, "But dressed like that? I mean, how do you do it?" "No, we don't really meet the people face to face. We do it on the telephone." And we sell a jet on the telephone. That's crazy. And I always started from early to go and actually see a client. And
Mhm.
so when I got back in the industry and all these people were in different parts of the country, I figured, okay, I have to build something to get them to come and see me. And whether it was just some crazy idea after drinking too much vodka one night or whatever it was, this light bulb went out and I said, okay, I want to build a showroom and I need to know I have three things. One, I need to have something to catch their eye driving by. Two, when I get them in here, I have to have technology because nowadays, if you don't, touching your fingers on a piece of glass, everybody loses their
Right,
attention.
right, right.
And three, when you actually get in there, what's the data? So
Mhm.
the environment, the technology, and the data. And so I started with that concept, and it took me about a year and a half actually to design because I didn't want it to look like, an airplane model store from the outside or a travel agency. And it took a little while because there was nothing to, copy it from.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And when you say it took a little while, I mean, I imagine that when you started, you were highly focused on building this. How did you go and start recruiting people or getting known in the business? I mean, that has to be, wow, I would say one of the most difficult things, getting known in the business and building yourself as one of the top guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did it for many years before I was in the private equity world, but I was really a submarine. I mean, nobody knew I was there. I would do deal
Hmm.
by deal. I was very quiet, under the radar. There was no
Yeah.
social media in those days. So when I came out and I built the showroom, I wasn't, again, there was a big mistake I had because I thought I designed everything perfectly. I hired a team that I thought would be great, but I really didn't realize that once I actually opened the doors, that I actually had to run a business, that I had to oversee people, I had to deal with the landlord, I had to do marketing, I had to do budgets, and I really couldn't sell airplanes. And
Mhm.
that was a big mistake I made. And it took me a little while. The first 6 months, we didn't sell anything. And I thought I was going to go bankrupt. It was a very eye-opening situation. My money was going out the window and had a big investment in the showroom. But we sort of, on the job training, I got the people more involved and I got the media to come and start doing interviews and we started building a little presence. I did one deal and then, slowly did another. So we were like a locomotive coming out of the station where it just starts really slow, 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 chugging along. But now we've, after we pick up a little momentum and you get a couple of deals under your belt, you have a little bit of money and you have a
Mhm.
little bit of flexibility, and then you can be a little bit more picky on who you're going to do business with, where you're going to market, and how you're going to market.
So talk to me about your strategy. Give me an idea of how you go out there. I mean, I know that social media presence is critical in any business model nowadays. Social media is very highly important. But give me an idea on how you started to get into social media and has it helped you as far as business goes?
Yeah, so it's a freak thing. It was only about, I don't know, 2.5 years ago. Um, One of the young guys in my office that I just not too long ago hired because of COVID, I had to
Hmm.
change a few people. Everybody in during COVID has lost their work ethic. And I had this young guy working for me, and he showed me somebody on TikTok. It was a woman with a 10-year-old daughter that had some little shop here in London that sold expensive handbags and watches and things. And she
Hmm.
was going around, interviewing people on the street, how much are these earrings, where'd you get these dressed from, and all this kind
Hmm.
of stuff. And she said she was a billionaire's wife, and she would be like, "Come on, honey, let's go buy Daddy a Rolls Royce today." And it was really obnoxious and stupid. And the guy said to me, "Steve, we should have her come in here and pretend she's buying a jet." And I was like, "Are you fucking insane? I mean, that is the stupidest thing I
Yeah.
ever heard."
Yeah.
And I said, "I have a reputation, I have a brand. I mean, we're upscale. I mean, what is TikTok? I didn't even know what TikTok was."
Yeah.
And so he shows me the video, and over the next couple weeks, I'm looking at the stuff, and it's pretty corny. And so finally, I said after a few weeks, "You know what? He's bugging me." I said, "Have her come here on Saturday. You take her through." I told the young guy, "You take her through the showroom, and you make a video. Let me see what it comes out, and I'll let you know." So they came in, they did it, and they showed me the video, and the little girl goes running up to my screen and says, "Dad, Mommy, come on, we could buy this G650." And the mother says, "Remember, honey, Daddy said keep it under 100 million." And they showed me this video, and I was like, "No way, there's not a chance I'm going to put this on my social media." I had an Instagram account at that time
Hmm.
with 5,000 followers,
Uh,
and she put it on her TikTok, and it got 30 million views.
Amazing.
30 million views. And I looked at this thing and I said, "What the I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
contemplate 30 million people."
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's got my attention. And I said, "There's got to be somebody in there that has something to do with airplanes." So I said, "Let me take her out on the airport, show her airplane." So I took her out. We showed a plane. All of a sudden, I put on my Instagram, her Instagram. It got over 1 million views. And I'm like, okay. I took the guy who was doing the videoing, and I said, "Listen, why don't you come work for me a couple days a week for a couple months?
Yeah.
Let's see. Was it a freak thing? Was it the kid? Was it the mother? The planes? The showroom? What did the algorithm catch? I mean, or was it just people like to know about airplanes?" So we just started videoing stuff, and no script, and it just started grabbing, and 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, and boom. And now we've had 1.3 billion views, and we have 5 million followers on the different platforms.
Amazing. Amazing. And it's something as simple as just going out there and almost, doing your work. I mean, you're the content and your experience is the content. It's not like you're setting things up all the time, which I
No.
love. I love that. Okay, so kind of let's digress a little bit here. You talk to me a little bit about your family growing up and the principles and the foundation that you grew up on. I know that, you come from a fatherless or your father, I'm not too sure that story, but maybe you can kind of feed us in and how you grew up coming up and what you learned in your life to be the man that you are today.
So yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old. I had an older brother, I have a younger brother and sister. So
Hmm.
it was four of us. My mother basically worked two jobs her whole life,
Hmm.
so she could support us. And I wouldn't say we were poor, but we weren't living in the best neighborhood. It was, four of us living in a three-bedroom apartment. And if we wanted anything, we had to go out and work for it or steal it. I mean, there was no
Yeah.
way. Nobody's going to give anything to us in those days. I was born in the Bronx, but I was brought up in New Jersey, and so that's why I always had this drive that if I wanted something whether it was the candy store or a toy, I wanted to be able to just get it, and I couldn't really ask my mother for it because she was working so hard. So, and my older brother really had an opposite. He was not a hard worker. He sort of really took the easy way out. So I'm not sure if it came in DNA because it missed my brother and it got to me. And but my mother was a great inspiration for me because she was always working, but
Yeah.
they're not in I'm not talking about as a waitress or in the hairdresser salon or things like that. And so all my life, really, I've been working every day since I'm 7 years old, and
Wow.
uh, and it's just anytime I ever wanted anything, I had to actually work for it, and nobody ever has given me anything, and I'm a very unsympathetic and impatient person when I hear these stories about these kids who are in their mid-20s living at home and
Hmm.
expecting that they're going to create an app tonight and be a billionaire tomorrow. And
Sure.
it just generally the work ethic in the world is not, especially in Europe, it's not as strong as it used to be, especially after COVID. And I just think that the harder you work, the luckier you get, and more shit happens. And I just anything I want. I got to work for it. I just can't. I never expected or waited for somebody to give me something.
Creating the your business model. Uh, Give me a couple of times maybe that you faced some very difficult challenges and what you did to kind of overcome that.
Well, for sure, the one thing I have learned, and I have told so many people, don't let, don't ever let other people's negative opinions um,
Hmm.
tell you to do or not do what
Yeah,
you dream to do. I mean, it is, first of all, you've researched something that you want to do a lot. And usually the people that you're talking to have no clue of the subject you're even talking about.
right.
It's the stupidest thing in the world, just overall. Why would you ask them? Because generally, even you've said it, in some of your stuff, generally people don't want you to succeed. And it's human, it's a human trait, it's an unfortunate human trait, but you just got to fight for yourself. And so I had to go out there and really, everybody said I was crazy to do this idea, but listen, I knew this business very well. I knew the principal side because I was in the private equity very well. And I figured, listen, worst case is I'm going to build a showroom. It's going to take me X number of deals more than I do without the showroom to pay for the rent and the marketing and things like that. Fuck, it's not a huge gamble I put in my head because it's just a financial gamble. Well,
Yeah.
if it's just a financial gamble, go for it, man. It's not like I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to jump off a cliff and die, And if it doesn't work, the biggest challenge also besides for that was it was in 2009 when I started doing this. It was literally, the year after the financial crisis. Everybody was saying, "You are nuts, man. The world is coming to an end. Nobody's buying jets anymore. Nobody's going to have another jet again in history." And
Hmm.
by the way, since 2008 financial crisis, there is almost 100% more of the number of jets there were in the
Oh,
fleet than there
damn.
were in
Okay.
2009. It's almost doubled.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
90% more. And I just figured, I was 55 years old, and I'm like, what do you mean? What am I waiting for? Wait for the market to
Hmm.
get better, wait for
Hmm.
this, wait for that.
Right.
It's like saying, I'm going to go on a diet next week. Well, if you're going to go on a diet next week, go on a diet today.
Yeah.
Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
It's like the Nike. I just do it
Yeah.
and see what happens. And so it was that kind of a situation that was holding me back. But at one time, I just found the perfect location. And when I found that location, I just said, "Fuck it, I'm all in." And I just pushed the button, and that was it, 1,000% forward.
I love that, man. That's drive and ambition. So, how difficult is it, to actually sell a jet from point A to point B? Like, I'm just, I've
Yeah.
tried to track this in my mind, and I'm saying, well, somebody shows interest, they finally show up to your place. I mean, how do you go from kind of walk us through that process?
So, of course, the majority of people don't actually get to the showroom. It's more of a marketing thing. And when I
Hmm.
do get to people, it gives me the credibility, the reputation, but when the
Sure,
people come in here, it definitely helps a lot.
sure.
But the process basically is, first of all, before I had the showroom, my motto was to get a listing on the airplane, like in real estate. If you have the listing, everybody has to come to you if they want to buy it. Uh, but then that whole economic model has changed since then because now, because of the showroom, 50% of my business is actually being mandated by buyers and 50% by sellers. And the process is, it's complicated, but it's complicated by a number of things. First of all, airplanes are complicated, and there's a lot of pieces of the airplane, the maintenance history, the ownership, the pedigree of it, what country it's coming from, how it's been taken care of. The other thing, the clients you're dealing with. Sometimes you're dealing with a Fortune 500 customer, which you have a flight department, a legal department, a board of directors, and sometimes you're dealing with an entrepreneurial-led company who is the person who makes the decision. If I
Mhm.
can get to that person, I have a pretty good chance that I can get a deal done. If I have to deal with the board and the flight department, stuff gets lost through translation, and I can't communicate the benefits of what we're trying to offer. So the first thing is to find the right product. Let's say you're representing a buyer, okay? You're trying to find the right product. Once you find the right airplane, you do a market analysis to show how it compares to the other ones and why it's worth this kind of price, which is easier to do than you could think. And then once you do that, you make a letter of intent. And then when a letter of intent comes, you have
Hmm.
to do a purchase agreement. Then you got to do a pre-buy inspection, and you got to do an export C of A deregistration. There's a long process. But
Hmm.
the thing is, if you don't have the rapport and the confidence of your customer, whether it's the buyer or the seller, you really have a huge chance of losing the deal. Once you
Hmm.
find the airplane, put it in football terms, you're on the 5 yard line. And you got a long way to go to get to the other side of the field. You can get tackled and intercepted and punched and beaten, and you might get it taken away from you and lose it. And that
Hmm.
will happen 90% of the time because the customer finds another airplane, he finds something wrong with the plane, he decides something went wrong in the business, something went wrong with his family, something always happens. And it's a very difficult process to keep the customer engaged. And I have a really fortunate position where I play in the world that my clients play in. So I could talk to my client with a lot more, confidence and zest, and not like I'm a sales guy, talking to some billionaire or chairman and,
Hmm.
oh, sir,
Hmm.
I'm bowing down to you. I mean, I
Hmm.
respect them, but I don't kiss their ass. So I make sure that I am direct to them and forcibly direct because I am the only one that really is going to deliver the bad news if I have it. Nobody else wants to deliver the head guy bad news. And they always sugarcoat it. The chairman of most Fortune 500 companies, they have no idea what's happening in the field. It's so filtered, the information that gets to them. And when they're ever going anywhere to maybe a field office or a store or a restaurant they have in the field, all the people know they're going to come. It's like the president coming to London this week. I mean, they take you down the street that's perfectly clean.
Oh yeah, yeah,
There's no protesters.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everything is
Of
sugar-coated.
course.
And that's how people that work around them, they only get filtered information. And I'm very direct, I'm very honest, and I'm very sincere. And if it's gonna mean I'm gonna lose the deal, I'm gonna lose the deal. So I think the people get that message and the respect that I have for them, the loyalty and the truth that I'm trying to pass on, and I think that develops those relationships because the relationship, answering your question in a short term, relationship is huge because even though if they don't buy that airplane, they'll still stick with you to buy another plane if you connect with them.
So your cycle and making a sale on a jet, it could be months, even years.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, sometimes we talk to people for years,
Wow.
but once they decide they're going to do it, it's funny because the one thing in our showroom, when they're there, the one thing that happens is that there's not one question that they will ever ask me that I can't answer on the spot. When you're on the telephone with somebody or in a Zoom, they're always going to say, but can you do me a favor? Can you go compare this one to that one? Or can you come back to me
Hmm.
with this? And it's their out, it's their out. Here, there's no out. And you almost have to back off. You never hard sell these people because you get them into a little corner and they starts, squealing and, biting like a mouse caught in the corner. You need to sort of reverse out and say, listen, I gave you everything you need to know. Now just go home and think about it and come back. And I think it's a different kind of sell. It absolutely is. It's a different kind of sell.
Did you ever have a sale where you were able to knock it out in a few months?
Yeah, I've had one in 5 days. My
Oh,
fastest
wow.
one I ever
Okay.
did.
Damn, that was
And
quick. I'm
yeah,
sure that person came in and said, "Let's go."
it was a guy who called me from Australia one day, and he said, "I
Huh.
heard you have this airplane," and I said to him, "Listen, I have the airplane, but there's another deal happening on it on Monday. It was on a Thursday." I said, "If you sincerely have an interest in this is the number. You got to send me the offer now. But if you want to see it, you got to come up here and see it." And the principal flew here from Australia. We flew to London. We got on the jet, which was here in London. We flew down to the south of France where the owner was. We met with him for lunch, literally on his new mega yacht there. We got back on the jet. We flew back to London. We negotiated the purchase agreement. We did an engine borescope, an X-ray kind of thing in the next 3 days. He paid for it and he flew it back home. That was The unbelievable record.
Damn, that sounds amazing. So let me dig a little deeper here. So this is like a lot of your business is the lifestyle of the rich and famous type of thing, where you're out there and you're connecting with these individuals, and they come from these, very, very high, luxury. I could imagine you have people that are in positions that are extremely high level. So what, I mean, give me some stories here. Like you've traveled and met. Where's the coolest place that you've ever gone to meet a client?
Well, God, I've been on a lot of people's yachts. I've been in some homes that, are like hotels. I've been in the most exotic locations in the world, and this summer alone, I mean, I was in Sicily, I was in Malta, I was in Saint-Tropez, I was in Mykonos, I was in Monaco, it was in Lake Como. I mean, this is just
Mhm.
the summer running around. Some of it was on holiday, but I see clients in a lot of these places. And one of the big things, people ask me sometimes, these kids, how do you start? How do you get out there? Yeah, how do you start in the business? Most of these people, they sit home on their phone or watching TV or on their computer, and you just got to get out there. Just shit happens when you get out there and you meet people. And doing these trips I do, sometimes it's for one client, but I stay for a couple of days and you meet other people. And
Mhm.
and some of these places I've been, I've had some great stories. I've had some difficult people, very difficult people. They've been in casinos. I've been in restaurants. I've been in, where you're negotiating a deal right there. And then sometimes you have families or business people around them, and sometimes they're one-on-one. And there's no one, instance. Every single deal is different.
So these when you go and you meet these clients, some of them I imagine is to sell their plane, and some that are buying or interested. When you get there, I mean, I'm just curious on how. I mean, you got to have some type of command presence, right? Where I mean, you're the dude, man. They called you, they connected with you, you got introduced. Now it's all about proximity, making sure that you're doing the handshake, that you are there, and it because like you said, it's a very different relationship when you actually go and meet someone and break bread or shake hands. Do you feel like you traveling to these places and connecting and having people there and sitting next to them, do you feel that that has a higher percentage closing a deal?
There's no question. There are there might be really one other guy in my industry who I bump into at an occasional charity event, a party, one of these resorts. Most of these people are, the normal salesperson. They're on the phone. They're going to visit somebody in their office. They're going to meet with their pilots. It's a job. It's more of a job for them. Me, it's really, like I said, the reason I'm in this industry because I want to be around these people. The saying that you're the average of the five
Hmm.
closest people you stick with all your life. I want that average to be very, very
Right,
high.
right,
I
right.
want to be around positive people, successful people. I want to be,
Sure.
dragging their energy, and I don't want to be around negative people. So I'm always around those people because I just feel better. But I feel confident around them, and then I can hold my own. And I think, they sense that and they respect that. So I think it's not a cocky attitude. It's not an arrogant attitude. As a matter of fact, arrogant is one of the most disgusting, traits in the world. But you can have humbleness and confidence combined that is much much more pleasant a trait than arrogance.
Now, when you started building this business, was it, obviously it was you, and do you have employees, people that work for you, teams? Give me an idea of how that is structured.
Yeah, we have a small team. We have 9 people here,
Okay.
and we're a small little space here. But it's there's salespeople, there's research people, then I have an IT and a graphic design guys who basically protect the brand, the image, the
Nice.
brochures, the stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I'm always coming up every day. I'm asking them, can you do this? Can you do that? I've always have a different idea. I just like coming up with different ideas, and of course, a lot of them fall by the wayside and don't happen. But it's a fun kind of process to keep trying to change the game a little bit. And the sales guys here, they have the ability to take a deal from the beginning to the end. I do like to micromanage, and I like to know every single deal that's going on because eventually the principal is going to want to call me and say, "What's going on? How come there's this delay?" And so I'm always up to date on any transaction that we have going on, so that in case that happens, I can answer right away, not like I'm sort of out of the deal, and they need to feel special, like I'm in touch with them. So, the research guys call all the owners of the airplanes to see who's buying and selling, and hopefully find a mandate that they can get to represent them to buy or sell. And the social media has helped us a little bit to open that door to get to see some of these people.
Now, from a perspective of owning a business and running it as a CEO and the visionary of the company, I mean, I got to believe that these individuals that are in sales position look at you as a mentor, looking for mentorship, how you're doing things. How have you kind of maybe positioned yourself within your company?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, and you and your background, you are definitely. I'm a lot like you. Okay, so I walk around. You fuck shit. What you? This
Yeah.
guy's an idiot. And the world that has evolved, where really, if your assistant comes in your office and you can't even say, "Wow, you look nice today," and you have sexual harassment, and
Oh God,
you
yes.
know, I mean, the world
Yes.
has just gotten so
Yes.
crazy
Yeah.
with this kind of stuff, and so my environment when I'm talking to, my guys know how I talk, how I operate, and and it's just a way to, it's not my emotion, but it's just get my point across, and it's not to try to be an asshole about it, but it's just sometimes when you talk to somebody, it's the only way to get the point across.
Hmm.
And it's rare that I'll lose my cool with a client on the phone, but sometimes I have to. And sometimes it's an act. I could be screaming at the person and then I hang up the telephone and somebody else walks in. Yeah, what's going on? And just it's part of the act. But I am definitely in the trenches. The guys, they haven't adapted that part in their I don't know, I'm saying confidence level. They
Yeah.
don't talk the way I do, but I guess that's good from their standpoint. But I get away with it in a different way.
I love that. I love that. Look, if you didn't have that fire, I don't know if you would really. I believe that the fire is a reflection of how much passion you have for your business, for your company, for what you do. So, man, I'm an old school guy like you, where it's, sometimes I will lose my top and it is what it is. I tell people that are working for me here, one of the main things is you have to have thick skin, and that's the name of the game. But like you said, this generation, a lot of them are very soft. They're very thin, everything bothers them, so I agree with you 100%. How did you get tough? When you were younger, were you raised, how did your mom raise you? I mean, were you a kid that was, have to overcome things, challenges? Did you do sports when you were younger, compete, anything like that?
No, I didn't do any sports. I like to ski. I started skiing
Okay.
like that. Even then it was late. I was 15 years old when I wanted to snow ski. But I never really did sports, and because I was always working. I didn't have time to
Mm.
do sports. And we lived, like I said, we brought up in New York and New Jersey, and I'd walk down the street, and some kid would throw a rock at my head, and I'd get rushed to the hospital, and you get into a fist fight, or you go down the railroad tracks, and guys would have broken bottles, and you get into a gang war between each other if you're in the
Hmm.
wrong,
Right.
literally the wrong side of the tracks. Even into school, if you went down the wrong hallway, in those days, the other group of people, would take you and hang you up by the basketball net,
Right.
So it was a rough upbringing, and you had to defend yourself. There was no, you take no prisoners, so there was no time for being a prissy guy, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, see that's hard edge. So you still carry that hard edge today, and that's good because I think that any good businessman out there has a hard edge, has the ability to, sometimes you got to just, push, and that comes with a level of intensity that a lot of people just don't get. So definitely I
Yeah.
believe that that is something that it's a positive thing, not a negative
Listen,
thing.
no matter how much you get punched, man, you gotta
You got
keep
to keep
trying to
on.
get up.
Yeah.
Keep on getting up. And I saw some of the videos where you do with your guys in your 4 day, I don't know if you want to call it camp or whatever. And these guys are dying, dying, but they know, man, the guys,
Mhm.
the real guys that win that whole, that come out of that thing strongest, that no matter what happens, you got to inch forward. Maybe you might not get a foot, but get an inch, and you just don't ever give up. It's
Yeah.
just innate in your brain.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about planes for just a few minutes here. The I've seen some of your videos, and sometimes you talk about even planes like 20 years old and 25 years old. Like in my mind, I'm thinking cars, Um, you know, there are cars that are 50, 60 years old that are still moving around. But when it comes when it comes to being in the air, I don't know, my mind is a little bit different. I'm like, I don't know, a 10-year-old plane, I don't know, is that too old? Or so let's talk about age with planes, and let's talk about maybe technology and where you've seen really the best or the biggest jump in technology.
So I don't want to scare you, but I would advise you not to ask the pilot the next time you get on a commercial airline as you're boarding the airplane.
Uh-huh.
Ask them what the year of the airplane is and how many hours are on it. Okay. You might
Oh,
be
Lord,
really shocked.
Lord.
Okay. I mean, these airplanes have 60, 70, 80,000 hours on the things,
Wow.
and they're flying, 5,000 hours a year. They're nonstop. On a corporate jet,
Mhm.
the average corporate jet is flying 400 hours a year. Okay. And let's say for banking, people ask me how old is old. From a bank standpoint, a bank doesn't want to finance the airplane if the age of the airplane and the term of the loan exceeds 20 years old. So if it's a
Got it.
15-year-old airplane, they want a 5-year term or 10, 10, or whatever.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that it's old. It just means that the bank is more confident that you're going to be able to sell it quickly for that residual value.
Right.
And after 20 years, it's not that the airplanes are not safe after 20 years old, but the problem is some of the maintenance facilities don't want to work on the technology and the avionics and the radios and things like that, or the cabin entertainment system. So instead of working on this stuff, you have to put a whole new system in, and that gets to be very expensive. So the plane itself structurally is perfect. It's just never, I mean, it's built for a lot more use than it ever will fly. And it's taken through some ridiculous kind of safety checks. So it's never a problem. Matter of fact, 85% of all plane accidents happen by pilots, not because of the airplane.
Mhm.
So the age of the airplane doesn't really affect, the safety. It's just the equipment gets older, it gets expensive to replace it, and then
Mhm.
it just doesn't become economically viable to put that kind of equipment in an airplane worth that much money.
Got it. Got it. So, from a perspective of buying a jet, so 10 years, it's still considered a pretty new plane.
Yeah, so the airplanes have warranties for the first 5 years, like a
Hmm.
car, and the price would drop the most the first 5 years, like in a car, and
Depreciation, right? Hmm.
depreciation.
Sure.
And so if you really want to, if you don't want to buy a new airplane, the best price is like that 5 to 10 year old because it just came out of a warranty. The price dropped the most, and the depreciation level goes lower and lower percentage wise going forward. So you're getting the youngest airplane and you already took out some of the depreciation of the residual value. So you're getting the combination of both that makes it a more sensible place to buy value. And the technology is relatively, still current if it's 5 to 10 years old.
At what point do you think, from a technology standpoint in jets, uh, eh, 10 years, 20 years, has the technology changed over the last 20 years that dramatically?
It hasn't really, but I'm not saying it's not going to excel in the development of technology going forward because everything today is going faster and faster. With AI, quantum computing, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, what they're able to do now is just amazing, and it's
Hmm.
and it's really exponentially, speeding up. So really, no. If you want to look at a jet from 25 years ago, the airplanes went the same speed. The airplanes burn within 20% of the fuel burn.
Hmm.
They're still using jet fuel, which is kerosene. They haven't come up. They're still starting to use now this sustainable aviation fuel. It's going to take a little while to get out there, but it is going to eventually, come into the system, which is going to be more economically, I mean, more environmentally friendly.
Hmm.
Um, but really, the creature comforts being inside a plane hasn't changed that much. I could ask you the same thing. Sit in a Mercedes-Benz today and a Mercedes-Benz that's 20 years old. What is different? You have the
Yeah.
same number of seats, the same
Right.
speeds on the road, the same tires. You got
Right.
all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And wait, tell them I'll be a little way off. And really, the
Yeah.
fuel burn, okay, is it 10, 20%? You can go electric. That's great. But you can't go electric yet with planes. That technology is just coming in now. And that's a thing
You
called,
think that's going to happen? The
wow.
going really?
There's a thing called EVTOL, EVTOL.
Uh-huh.
So a VTOL, a VTOL is a helicopter. It's
Uh-huh.
vertical takeoff landing. An
Uh-huh.
EVTOL is an electric vertical takeoff and landing. Basically, it's a passenger carrying drone, a flying car.
No
Okay.
way.
And they are flying now, today. All
Holy
right.
crap.
And
Okay.
and they're going to be certified to be able to be starting to be in use. I'm talking about within a year. They've been in development for the last 10 years.
Lord.
And it is happening. So there's about 300 companies that are developing these things, but there's probably going to be, 5 or 10 of these companies that are really going to be the real winners. There's
Hmm.
3 of them that are publicly traded companies now with $5 to $10 billion market caps, and that is a reality. And they are, first of all, they're electric or hybrid. So if they're electric and eventually be hydrogen, there's no carbon footprint. So it's unbelievably, atmosphere friendly. It has no engine noise. It's got a drone noise, but no engine noise. And it's a distributed electric system. So you might have 10, propellers around you that lift you up and down. And if one goes out, it doesn't matter because the other ones are all separate and they operate on their own. So they're
Crazy.
safer,
Crazy.
quieter, and more environmentally friendly. And they are here.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. And you see that transitioning into the jet industry over the next decade or so?
The biggest problem today is battery life, and they
Hmm.
haven't gotten that perfected yet. It's like they're fighting that with cars all the time. It's much worse with
Right, right.
these eVTOLs. So that is improving. So you can either get speed and a little bit more range, or you get slower speeds and more range. You can't get the combination yet, but it's happening faster and faster. But eventually, these things are going to be for sure. There's a company called Alice. They're developing an electric airplane, and it's going to be an electric airplane that you're going to be able to fly, from Florida to New York, no problem, with
Hmm.
8, 10 passengers. And there's other airplanes that are in development that are going to be holding 30, 40 people. So eventually you're going to see the bigger airlines will get into hybrid and eventually hydrogen when they can figure out how to store. They've flown airplanes already with hydrogen, but
Wow.
it's too much of a storage problem. They have to figure out how to reduce that.
So when people come to you to buy a jet, what is the number one reason why they want to do it?
Well, that
Hmm.
that reason has changed over the years.
Interesting. Okay.
Before it was absolutely a business decision. It
Hmm.
was a need that you had to really, get around to multiple places, and but with a lot of more money that's been made in the last 5 to 10 years, is
Hmm.
a huge amount of wealth that's been created. Um, People are looking at the time creation. So, I always say time is money, buy a jet. You cannot, people say you can do anything with money, but you can't buy time. Well, you can. So if you actually fly 400 hours a year on a corporate jet and you're a corporate executive, you can actually add 33 days minimum to your year of working. 33
Wow.
business days. So if you're
Wow.
running a $1 million, billion-dollar company, that's worth a lot to have that executive,
Oh yeah.
online, talking on the ground, being able to work with the company. So it the real reason is because you can build time. The luxury is convenience and time. That's the
Sure,
luxury.
convenient.
Not that you're in a beautiful space. The most airplanes, like I said, are not like that. Most airplanes are like sitting in a Viano, a minivan, and you
Hmm.
can't stand up. You can't, you got to duck down to go to the toilet. It's not luxury. It's
Hmm.
convenience and it's time. Today, you see in the charter market, there's a lot more of a personal use doing because there's a lot more disposable income, and more people are seeing that the nightmare of commercial travel has just gotten so bad that people are just saying they're fed up with it, and they're going the other route and flying corporate jets.
So the average person that comes to you, just, average, not necessarily the king of the castle and not the guy that's just the tire kicker, but that average, what is the average price that people spend on a jet?
Well, I tell you, in our industry, on pre-owned airplanes,
Hmm.
the average is probably more like $8 million, but my average is in the 20s because we only focus on what they call super mid up to long range airplanes.
Hmm.
And but these jets, you can get an old 10, 20-year-old airplane for $1 million, or you can get a brand new Gulfstream G700 or a Global 7500 for 80, $85 million. So the range is huge. But the biggest selling jet, which is Embraer Phenom 300, that airplane is an eight-passenger seat. You really can't stand up in it, but it's a nice, efficient airplane. It got a bathroom. It can go 1,700 miles, and that airplane's about $13 million brand new.
Hmm. I was just going to ask you exactly right around that 10 to 12 million dollar range. So you think that that's right around that price range? That's
Yeah,
a
yeah, that's
interesting.
a popular, but more importantly, it's not the purchase price; it's the operating cost.
Right.
So, because people really focus on that, which they should. So, a small jet is
Hmm.
about $1 million a year to run it.
Hmm. Hmm.
A mid-sized jet is about $2 million a year, and an
Hmm.
ultra long-range airplane is about $3.5 million, and something like this is about $5 million a year. And so, really, it depends. You want to carry four, you want to carry eight, you want to carry 12, you want to carry 19. Do you need to go 1,000 miles? Do you need to go 6,000 miles? So, really, you have to figure out what's your need, and then don't try to get a shoehorn and get yourself stuck into the shoe. You got to get the airplane that fits your needs, and then you can always find something in that price range because you can go down and get something 5, 10, 20 years old and still meet the needs that you can get with a brand new airplane.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, when you see people that travel, they're traveling what on the average, 1,000 miles, couple thousand miles? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, if you actually look at the statistics, it's 2.7 hours and 2.6 people in the plane.
Hmm,
Mm.
very interesting. And so eh, when someone comes to you and they say, "Okay, I'm ready to buy," there's a lot of pre-inspection before you actually deliver the plane to that person, right? I mean, it's not something where you say,
Yeah.
"Well, you like a car, here you go, delivery." It's unless it's, I'm imagining, correct me if I'm wrong, unless it's a brand new plane that just came out of, it's literally brand new. The client ordered it, and you're delivering that plane. I assume that there's not as much uh, preliminary checks or anything like that, or is there?
No, you're right. If it's a brand new airplane, no problem. You're taking it right off the
Mm,
showroom floor, and you just put it in service. But if that airplane flew 10 hours, then you want to take it in and do a borescope, like an engine X-ray. You want to check some things because you just don't know what happened during that flight. But normally, when you buy any airplane, a pre-owned airplane, you
mm,
you take it into what they call pre-purchase inspection, and there's different levels, one, two, three, depending on how not only how old it is, but how far out of its last big inspection it's come, or how
mm,
far before the next big inspection is coming.
mm.
And those inspections, depending on the size of the airplane, could cost 30, 70, or $150,000 to
Got it.
do the inspection. And that takes about 2 or 3 weeks to rip the airplane apart, top to bottom, go through every sheet of paper in the logbook and the records, really to make sure everything is perfect. And if you don't have perfect records and the perfect airplane, then you don't probably want to buy it.
That's a great point. All right, as we're winding down, what do you do in your life to keep you sharp? right? To keep you on edge. I know that I mean, I've seen some of the videos. You get to your office early, or you're on point. So what do you do with your life from the moment you wake up?
Well, first thing I do when I wake up is I'm on my phone looking at the emails and messages I
Yeah.
got from overnight, and I'm usually up in the middle of the night checking again, or if the phone rings in
Wow.
the middle of the night. So I'm on 24/7. If the phone rings,
Crazy.
I'll take it.
Okay.
But really, it is. I go out. My other half, Lisa, she's the most social person in London. So we're out like 6 nights a week. We're out socializing, and like I said, we're lucky enough. A lot of our friends are in that world, and
Hmm.
and I'm always with people, and that is so key.
Hmm.
Talking to people, dealing with people, being human with them, and being yourself. So learning educate. I'm always, I'm into longevity because of my age. I'm going to all these conferences on longevity, and I'm learning
Hmm.
about AI, and I'm trying to learn about robotics, and I'm just trying to learn everything I can to keep my brain sharp and know what's going on. So anybody I do business with, no matter what subject they're working in or what sector, I can at least have an educated conversation with them.
Yeah. What about fitness? And do you eat anything specifically? You watch what you eat, or you?
Let me tell you, man, I work out, okay, 5 days a week. I have a trainer. I do cardio. I've taken stem cells from the umbilical cord of
Wow.
newborn
Okay.
babies. I
Yeah.
take peptides. I take supplements. I do annual physicals with blood checks every 3 months. I'm planning on living a very long time. And
That's amazing.
the
I love that.
technology in the longevity world is so crazy right now. I
Hmm.
mean, you're going to be, in the next 10 years, you're going to be able to double your lifespan. Healthy
Yeah.
lifespan.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think things are changing right now in our lifetime, and we could take great advantage of them. All right, Steve, listen, where can people follow you on Instagram? You're on TikTok. Where else?
Yeah, so Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Snapchat, all the platforms under the Jet Business, LinkedIn. They're on the Jet Business, and some are on Steve Varsano, but most of them are on the Jet Business. And really, if you just go on the internet and go into the Jet Business, they have the phone number of the company, and I'm really one of the easiest guys to reach. I really try to answer mostly every email, phone call, except for, unfortunately, I get bombarded with so many people who want jobs and work experiences, and I just can't, unfortunately, get to all these people and talk to them and give them the advice. But I try to talk to as many people as I can, and even till late in the night or early in the morning when I have to. So I try to stay connected with them, and the social media actually, connects me to more people than I can handle.
Oh,
But
sure. Sure.
but I'm getting back from some of the younger people that watch me. I'm thinking more than I give them. So I really enjoy and I appreciate, getting feedback from these young kids.
Awesome. We'll drop all the links on our show notes on Spotify and all the other good places where we post the podcast. Well, Steve, man, it was an honor to have you on. I got to tell you, I watch you very closely. You keep me inspired personally because I just know you're out there, you're hungry, you have ambition, you're a driven man, and more importantly, you have integrity and you're honorable. And that's highly important. We need to see that more in our men in our society nowadays.
Well, I 100% agree. And I will tell you, I read your book this week.
Oh man,
Okay.
awesome.
And I
Awesome.
have done exactly what you said, the highlight. And even today, I went through the highlights 3 times and to read over and and the stuff that you have in here is amazing. It is
Thank you.
it's so common sense. It's
Yeah.
for people like us who are brought up in the streets and stuff. And I want to thank you for having the content in here. And if anybody, I'm sure, watching you who's already believes in it, but I'm telling you, thank you for this because I've learned a lot from what you have in here.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. All right. Well, for everybody listening here, we're going to be posting this podcast pretty soon. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out across the board on all of your favorite social media channels. And may God bless you.